Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Visibility Era, the podcast. Today, I have my fiance with me, which Bridget has no idea. I'm bringing him on. I was going to do a whole episode on Buenos Aires and how my trip was. And since Spencer came with me, I was like, why not? He's home. Why not have him on?
Surprise, Bridget.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Spencer. I'm Lydia's fiance. Thanks for tuning into the podcast.
So let's start with what we did in Buenos Aires, why I was even there. Buenos Aires, how do you say it? I feel like I'm not doing it right.
Buenos Aires.
Buenos Aires. Okay, that sounds better. So, why we were there because one of my friends was getting married to an Argentinian woman. So he asked if we wanted to go to the wedding back in December, and I'm so happy we did because we had an amazing time. We had fun at the wedding, we had fun in a new culture. But let's take it back to the beginning. So, how was our original trip there? How was our flight?
Well, I think everything went pretty smooth as far as the flights and everything went. We had to get up at 3 in the morning to make the flight that we were hoping to get on. Unfortunately, that flight was full, and the way standby works is if the flight is full, you don't make it on, and that's how our benefits work. So we pivoted. We took a flight through Colombia and then made it to Buenos Aires after that. And then at 3 in the morning, when we landed, we realized that we didn't book a hotel for that evening or for that day. So we had to scramble. We ended up at the Marriott for about 8 hours from 3 in the morning till checkout at 11. And then yeah, everything worked out fine though.
I'm gonna just paint a picture for you. So 3 a.m. We get to the airport in Miami and we fly standby, like what Spencer said. And what standby means is we don't have an official ticket for the plane. We just like it basically says like here's your access pass to the airport. That's how I think about it. Like here's your access pass to the airport, and if they have additional seats available, we can get on the flight. And we get like a crazy discount for it. Actually, do you fly free for international?
No,
No. Okay, I have to pay.
it's called a Zed fare
A
in the
Z.
biz.
Oh, what's that mean?
I have no idea.
Okay. It's like taxes. So we get to I always pronounce this wrong. What was it called? Aerolingus? No.
Aerolinas Argentinas.
Aerolinas Argentinas. And the gate agent was essentially like, yeah, you're not going to get on this flight and you're not going to get on the next one. It's fully packed. And we're like, cool, cool, cool. So we looked up our benefits to see what else we had available. And we had Avianca, which is a Colombian airline. So we ended up flying into Colombia. It was actually a very short layover. It was only like,
2 hours.
yeah, it was like 2 hours. So we had one of the best empanadas ever. It was a Lebanese empanada. I don't know how that ties in. Maybe there's some Lebanese people over in Colombia. But anyway, that started like the empanada frenzy for a solid 10 days. But we did get to look out the airport, see Colombia for a little bit. So that was really cool. But I was in charge of booking all the flight or booking all the Airbnbs. And basically we like landed touchdown and I was thinking about the dates and I'm like, oh, I didn't book for today. So
Yeah, so we landed on the 5th and we had an Airbnb for the 5th, but because we didn't have it for the night of the 4th into the 5th, we did not have an Airbnb.
yeah, so we landed at 12 a.m. or like 1, and we were like, oh my God, we can't check in for hours. It's technically nighttime. So I didn't really think that one through. But anyways, thank God for the big like legacy hotel chains because I was like, well, just it'll be fine. Why don't we just get an Airbnb, like get like a Uber over to a Marriott close to our Airbnb? It'll be fine. It'll be fine. And he was like definitely calm because he's like a calm guy, you can tell, but he was not into it. And so I was just praying that that was going to be the case, and it was the case, thank God. So we got into the Marriott, just a little cute $300 mistake, but the the actual hotel itself was really, really nice. So I'm not even mad. We stayed there and we were like next to a cool strip. We started in Recoleta, which is essentially kind of like they kept saying it was like the Paris, like the luxury area of Buenos Aires.
Yeah, on our walking tour, our guide told us that that was where all of the rich people moved to when they moved to Buenos Aires. So, you could tell it looked like they had like the all the wrought iron and things, the streets and everything. Everything was beautifully designed, and yeah, you could tell it was the rich area.
Yeah, you could definitely tell. Like it literally looks like Paris to me. I kept saying that. And then when we were on the tour, our tour guide was telling us that they were brought in to design these buildings to
The
kind of like,
artists.
yeah, to kind of like resemble Paris. So it was really cool. What else? Okay, so we got in, we walked around. This is something that we learned. There are people on the street that will exchange USD or whatever money, I guess for Buenos Aires money, and they have like their Argentinian pesos. So, what are you? Because I said Buenos Aires money.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have the Argentinian peso. And so we just did that day one. We were told that it's like best exchange rate to either do that or do Western Union. So we did that first, and it was kind of funny. They were just, what were they yelling? They were yelling change.
Yeah, they're yelling change in Spanish, so they're saying cambio, 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 cambio.
Yeah, and I was just like,
Anybody walking
what
by.
are they yelling? And we're like, oh, like these are the guys we heard about. So we exchanged our money there. Then we kind of just like walked around it. Oh my gosh, it was 90 something degrees for like 4 days. I'm gonna put a video up actually of our Airbnb. So I'm so happy I booked an Airbnb. Actually, Airbnbs in Buenos Aires are very affordable and very beautiful. So there was one that was like $60 a night that was like, really nice, but it didn't have a pool. And there was another for 80. And I'm like, you know what? We're gonna stay for a few days. $80, let's do it. And it was like a luxury apartment building with an infinity pool overlooking the whole city. It was amazing. So I'm so happy we ended up booking that one because it was 90 something degrees. And, you can't really tell like what the weather is going to be like when you book in advance. You can get like a ballpark, but it did not say 90. So we ended up like going for a walk, going to the pool, going to lunch, going to the pool, exploring, going to the pool. So it was a very cool experience to be able to do that and like see the city from this high view. We went shopping one morning and we were just like talking to the clerk. She was so cute. She actually lived in Brooklyn for a while and then moved to Argentina with her family. But so she had this like thick New York accent. I could tell right away. I was like, "Ooh, this is my people." And I showed her the rooftop and she was like, "Oh my gosh, this is gorgeous." Like telling her like other coworkers to come over and take a look at it. So that was really cool. What was your favorite part of Recoleta in the first few days?
Probably the view from the Airbnb. Also, just to go back to something that I think we glossed over, the reason why all these people are on the street making change and the reason why everyone tells you to bring cash is because the peso in Argentina has gone through such dramatic inflation over the past couple of years that people want cash and also they will give you a cash discount at restaurants and shops and things just because people want to have cash and they don't want to have to wait for cards to process. And also, you get a better rate and a better exchange rate than what your bank will give you even if you have like no international transaction fees and things like that. So if you are planning on going, it's recommended you bring cash and then change on the street or change at one of the best the Western Union banks. But
Yeah.
yeah, Recoleta, the view from our Airbnb from the pool, you could overlook the famous cemetery that's there. They have a lot of famous politicians buried there, and you could see the planes coming into the airport, and you could see the ocean. It was pretty stunning.
Yeah, you could see the ocean. Um, what was I going to say about the peso? Oh, so the way that they were talking about it is basically they want cash now because their economy has been so volatile that, if you put it through a bank or something like that, they don't get the cash immediately. And so there could be something that happens to their peso over that span of time. So cash is king over there. And you get discounts on like what Spencer was saying on like clothing items and things. So if you do want to go and shop, definitely cash, cash, cash. Of course, you can use your like international credit cards. Definitely use like a travel card if you can. But we just did cash. We walked around like we were like, I don't even know. We looked like drug dealers when we kept joking around. We had like a rubber band around our money, just like a wad of cash. I was like, if anyone sees inside this bag, they'll be like, what are you doing? Nothing fit in my wallet because they were giving, everyone was giving like 20s. So, well, 20,000 in Argentinian peso. So there weren't really a lot of like big bills, at least like available. So it was just a lot of 10,000s, just a lot of 1,000, a lot of stacks, a lot of stacks. So anyways, spent a few days in Recoleta and then we went out to Pilar, which was where the wedding was. And it was absolutely stunning. It was like the outskirts of Recoleta. And what I thought was really funny,
Outskirts
I
of
mean,
Buenos Aires.
outskirts of Buenos Aires. And what I thought was really funny is my friend who was getting married put us next to a girl that also does PR. And she just opened her own PR agency for celebrity athletes. And I was like, no way. So we were talking about visibility on purpose. We were talking about my agency. We were talking about like the difference between image PR. Basically, I was like chatting with her for, I don't know, half the dinner. So thanks, Spence. Um, but we were talking about just like the differences, and it was really cool to talk about like image PR because she does more. Yes, she does like publications and things, but she's also in charge of getting them brand, excuse me, getting them brand deals. She was like, "Oh, do you know Louis Vuitton?" I'm like, "Of course." She's like, "No, I didn't mean it like that. I'm just asking." So she was talking about doing brand deals with like literally Louis Vuitton. I'm like, that's pretty cool. So tell me about the wedding. What did you like about the wedding? Like, paint a picture because the weddings in Argentina, they just do that shit differently. Like, it was a nightclub.
Yeah, yeah, it was a literal nightclub. I think the coolest part for me was the venue. It was they had probably had like 12 acres of property, just like a wooded land and like a big yard and stuff. They had a little pool, and then the inside of the venue was also very nice, very well laid out. The food was great. There was like a whole meal before you sat down to dinner, which was great. And their cocktail bar had all the traditional stuff that you would find at like an Argentinian party. So it was really cool to see the different drinks that they had. They're big on amaros and stuff, so it was fun to try all the different drinks. And the
Cool.
wine, of course, is wonderful.
What was
So
the artichoke one?
Chinar,
Yeah. Okay. So, what is that considered an amaro?
it's an amaro.
Okay, so it's an amaro. It was made out of artichoke. I'd never tried it before, and I love like amaros. I love licorice flavor. I feel like my palate is like an old woman's. I love anything that has that kind of like old-timey spice. It was so freaking good. And we ended up meeting a couple at the wedding too. One was a pilot from Delta, so we were talking about just like the airline industry, and then his wife was just a really sweet woman who is really fun, and we had a great time with them. So it was nice to reconnect with my French friend. I didn't even mention that. So he's French. She is Argentinian. Also interesting, Argentina, Buenos Aires in general, they've had a very huge uptick in immigrants over the past since the 80s, I think they said. So there's so many different cultures there. It's very much a melting pot. A lot of Italian. So we saw a lot of pizza, a lot of pasta. But she actually was Scottish. So at the beginning of the ceremony, they had bagpipes come in, which was really freaking cool. So they did that. The property was like unreal. Huge windows, pools. We had the most beautiful sunset, like pinks. And the actual venue itself, like when you went into the party area, what is it, reception? I'm like the party area. They had twinkle lights. It was like all black, super sleek with twinkle lights wrapped around the entire like walls. And then a DJ came out and they had like TVs, like a DJ or like what is it? Not TVs, like
Yeah, no, like a big projection
Like
screen.
projections, yes, projectors all over the walls. So they were able to like change like the colors. Like it literally turned into a nightclub. And it was just really fun because like when are you going to go to a nightclub with ages spanning from like, teenagers up to 60, 70-year olds. So it was really fun. Something I did not know. I mean, I like knew, but I didn't know is their culture. They don't eat dinner until
Nine,
9, 10.
9, 10, 11, sometimes later.
Yeah. So they were like partying up until the wee hours. And they had three shuttles go out, a 2 a.m., a 3 a.m., and a 4 a.m. We were on with the elderly at 2.
The
They had a
first the first shuttle at 2 a.m. to leave
first shuttle at 2 a.m. They had a band come out at 1 a.m.
after the DJ.
Yes, after the DJ. Nothing else.
I mean, you could tell that the older generation was not ready for a nightclub vibe. They were like sitting at their tables just like, what is happening?
Especially the ones that were international.
Yeah.
I mean, because there were so many international people at this wedding. Like there was a ton of people from France. We were there. There was very few Americans, very VIP group, but
Four Americans, literally. It was us and the other couple that was there.
and one guy who I guess would be considered American. Yeah, I mean, he lives in Salt Lake
Yeah. So
City, so
he came from America, I guess, but
he it came from America. He's definitely a citizen.
yeah, that's
Like,
true.
yeah. But okay, so we were at the wedding. We met that girl who does PR. It's funny. I actually messaged her and I was like, "Hey, you should come on the podcast." So she represents, how cool is this? Like rugby athletes. Rugby is such a freaking badass sport. I wish that it was more popular here. I would love to go to a sports bar and just see like rugby on the screens. I mean, people like football. I could honestly care less about football. Rugby sounds it. Honestly, rugby and soccer. Maybe we should get more international.
You've always been saying this. I love watching rugby. I have no idea how it works. I watched a whole docu-series on it.
Really?
Yep.
What is it?
It was like the same producers or like the same company that did all of the like the popular documentaries on Netflix about sports, like the same ones that did the F1 documentary, the Full Swing series on golf. Like they had another one for rugby and I watched it and I was like, I still have no idea how the game works.
Yeah.
And a bunch of my friends from childhood played rugby and I was like, how does it work? And they were like, I don't know, I can't explain it to you right now. I was like, all right, thanks for nothing.
Actually, that is really funny. I haven't even thought about that. So, me and Spencer met many, many moons ago. Well, maybe we'll save it for another pod, but we met when I was 18 and you were 20 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, his friends were all on like the rugby team in college, and so I used to call them and party with them, which is so random. We
The
should
rugby
talk to them.
team had great parties.
They had great parties. We should talk to them about rugby and tell them about this. But anyway, so that was really cool. We end up leaving the wedding, wake up in the morning. We were invited to do an asada at the wife's cousin's house. It was like a beautiful, beautiful home in the suburbs. Like I'm talking, this looked like it came out of a movie or something. Like I don't know, like White Lotus. Like the the pool was beautiful and like a very rich color. Like like pools you can put a liner in and it looks like a pool, but this was like it looked like Tulum style pool. It was like square, brighter. And they had really nice lawn furniture, beautiful like wooden with like nice white pillows. Like it was just beautiful. You would think that this was a venue, not like a home, the way it was designed.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you like about the asada? What is an asada?
Asado.
Tell me about the asado.
It's probably like our equivalent of like a backyard barbecue. Um, but it's great. Like it's ingrained in their culture to cook meats over wood fire. And most houses look seem like they have just this brick grill built into their backyard. So these people hired a chef. They had a wood fire on a grill. They were cooking steaks and pork, and they had a bar set up. It was beautiful, and it was a really nice afternoon to like hang out and actually talk to people. because it was hard to talk to people at the nightclub that was the reception at the wedding. So it was fun. It was a smaller group. We got to meet some of the groom's bachelor. What would it be called? The groomsmen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got to chat with some of them. So it was cool. Also, that was probably the best food that I had on the whole trip.
So the way that the asado works is they're like constantly cooking meats and like giving them out to you. And they were just literally handing them into our hands. So it was very cool. They had a staff that they hired to like take the meats directly from this stone oven thing outside to and just walked around. They're like, here you go. So we had choripan, which is choripan.
Choripan, yeah.
Yeah. So it's chorizo basically and bread. So it's like a little sandwich. But chorizo for them is like sausage just in general. There's all different kinds. They're delicious, perfectly cooked. So we had that. We had like a pork thing. We had different types of steaks. Like it was just like nonstop. My friend who invited us to the wedding, he was like, make sure to be careful because if you try everything, you're going to get really, really full. And so I was pacing myself. I felt like I ate a lot. Spencer was like, I could have eaten more. I paced myself too much. But yeah, we just like hung out by the pool. Again, gorgeous weather. It was not 90 degrees anymore. It was like bearable. I wore jeans. It was like perfect out. So we did that. Then we went to Palermo, if you're noticing a lot of Italian influence, because there was Italian, French, yeah, a lot of different cultures. But anyways, we were in the Palermo neighborhood in Buenos Aires, and it felt to me like Brooklyn. Like it was very trendy, super young, coffee shops on literally, I don't know, literally every 2 feet.
Yeah, like every block, half block,
Yeah.
there's a coffee shop.
What else did they have?
In Palermo, yeah, it was definitely like a more of a hip neighborhood.
Mhm.
Um,
Lots of vintage shops.
yeah, younger, a lot of vintage shops. Um, Probably there was like a lot of tourism as well. There's a lot of tourists and there was a lot of tourists in Recoleta as well, but I think it was just like along that strip next to the cemetery.
Well,
And
they
in
had different
Palermo it was
kinds of like tourist areas.
right, yeah.
Yeah, so we were like our Airbnb was strategically placed. We selected far away from like the like loud area, but they did have a very like touristy area. But it was also really cool. They had so when we arrived, it was on Sunday, and I guess every weekend they do different like markets and things. So we saw a little glimmer of the market, went out to dinner, and then on Friday, the day that we left, we got to walk around the market a little bit. But they have like I'm talking the amount of coffee shops in Palermo. If you there's no shortage of coffee, like you will not be uncaffeinated. And what we noticed is the people of Argentina like their caffeine. So they drink yerba mate. If you don't know what that is, it's like a tea. And they drink that all day long. And I didn't, it was funny when we arrived, I knew about yerba mate, but I didn't know about these like cool cups. Actually, can you go get our cup? Um, I didn't know about these cool cups. So they get people are just walking around on the streets instead of like having a, Stanley cup like we do. They have these medieval looking, Renaissance looking cups that they just whip out on the street like it's normal with no cap. So this is what it looks like. And they're leather. This one is leather. And some of them have like chains on them, like literally so freaking cool looking. They'll just whip this out and they'll just sip on it on the streets. They also have what? They're like little bags of.
So it's a gourd inside of the
Oh,
leather.
yeah.
Um, it's like a very traditional thing. I guess it was probably from like the native Argentinians. Um,
I keep
and
moving the
it's the
microphone because I feel like I'm louder than you.
so yeah, these people have carried this tradition for so long, and then the straw is what filters out the actual tea. So you just put the tea in the gourd and then add hot water, and then you just sip through the straw. You don't need like a tea bag or a tea strainer or anything like that. Okay,
So you can
now we
like,
know.
so you can like, whatever.
And even though they don't have like the big Stanley cups like all of the white girls do here, they do have. I did see a little Stanley yerba mate cup. It's about the same shape as this, but it's just like got their little Stanley logo. I thought it was hilarious. So yeah, that was our yerba mate experience. You have to cure the gourd by adding mate and letting it sit inside in hot water, and then you dry it out in the sun if you can. Yeah, so that's it.
Yeah, so people are just on the streets, like just young, cute, whatever, and they're just whipping this out, just pouring their mate out of the leather pouch. Like it just was so cool. Like, wow, what a cool thing to have in their culture. So that was really interesting to know. I also learned everything is bueno. Everything is bueno. Like anything you ask, just like bueno, bueno. It reminded me of like prego in Italian. It just like means like a ton of different things.
It means good, so
It means good.
it's
Everything
good.
is good. We're all good.
We're all good.
What else did we do? So towards the tail end of our trip, I think we just like ate a lot. We had lots of different steaks. We tried, lots of pastries. Pastries were incredible. They're obsessed with dulce de leche. Very, very sweet for me. Just like a caramel, right?
Yeah, it's just essentially a
It's
caramel.
yeah, it's a caramel. So it was really good, but very sweet. I was also told that it it's it's like a little unsafe in the streets, but I think I had friends that just said that to be careful and mindful, just like in any city. I thought it was a very safe city. We also stayed in like very safe neighborhoods. We didn't really branch out too much. This was like the first trip that we've been on where we haven't traveled all over. Like we actually went to one place, one city, and just enjoyed it.
It's not the first trip. We went to Tulum and stayed just in Tulum.
Well, Tulum was like 3 days, and we basically like napped the whole time, went to the beach.
But yeah, everyone warns you. They're like, don't have your phone out on the street. But like everyone had their phone out on the street. It felt very safe, very normal. I imagine if we went to one of the areas that's like more seedy, we would have seen something different. But that seems to be the case for like any city that you go to. Like if you go to a bad neighborhood, it's going to be bad. So it's like if you go to a good neighborhood, it's going to be good. So I think it's just like how it is in cities. It seems pretty much just like a normal city. Obviously, when you're traveling, you just need to be aware of your surroundings and not put yourself in unfortunate situations or allow yourself to get into something like that. So yeah,
But yeah, it was good. It was really good. And then we ended up going to the gardens. So they have multiple gardens. So we went to one that was like a botanical garden, super gorgeous. We saw a hummingbird. Oh my God, there were also parrots.
yeah.
That was really cool. I didn't know they have parrots. I also I feel kind of like we went kind of blind where we were like, we were invited to a wedding. Let's just go and figure it out. Which was actually nice, I think, because there were so many surprises. It was like every little corner, everything we did. I'm like, wow, this is so cool. I love it so much. But we noticed that the climate or like I guess like the animals, the agriculture, a lot of it's similar to Florida. There were palm trees. There was a lot of like pothos plants, a lot of monstera. There
Yeah.
was a lot of tropical looking birds. I also saw a lizard, and I was like, oh, I just assumed because it's so south that the climate would be more like New Jersey, honestly. I mean, because like if you look at the equator and you look where we were, it seemed pretty far south. So anyway, it was very interesting to see the different climate. I thought that was really cool. And so we went to the botanical gardens. We also went to the Japanese gardens. My dad was like extremely hyped on the gardens, the Japanese gardens. They were beautiful. But the botanical gardens were free and the Japanese gardens were what, 14,000 each?
Yeah,
Yeah.
approximately
And I
$14.
was like, to be honest with you, if I were to have selected one of the gardens, I would have definitely chose the botanical over the Japanese gardens. I felt like that was enough to see, unless you really like that culture and you want to go check it out. I mean, it was very beautiful. I think at that point we were just kind of like, we walked super far. We walked all the way from Palermo to Recoleta area, which is like, I think it was either in Recoleta or like bordering.
I think if we were to walk directly, it would have been about 50 minutes from
Yeah,
our spot in Palermo.
it was pretty far. We were like pretty dedicated to the walk that day. That was interesting. Ooh, and we went to two really cool speakeasies. So one was in Palermo, one was in Recoleta, which you can tell we spent most of our time there. There's lots of other parts of the city that are incredible and beautiful. We didn't get to go to La Boca, which is like very colorful neighborhood. It's very famous. But we were just like on a journey of relaxing this trip. But we did go to those two. So I'll tell you about one speakeasy. Spencer can tell you about the other one. But one of them was through a flower shop, which was so interesting. It was when it was still hot, though. It was like 90 degrees. And so this place did not have AC. So we basically
No,
like,
they did. It just what couldn't keep up.
what?
They did have AC. It just couldn't keep up.
Oh, really? Okay. So we went through the door at the flower shop, which was really cool. And went down the stairs, and it was like a long hallway with a bar on the left side, and like there were so many people in there.
Yeah.
I would say about 70.
Yeah, easily.
Yeah, easily. Um, and we ended up getting like two really cool cocktails. It was like very, I've noticed that they're really into mixology. I don't know if it was just the places we were going to, but it seemed like that was the case. And like Spencer nerded out with one woman for like an hour one of the nights talking about different cocktails and clarifying them. Um, but yeah, we had like a cocktail with mate in it, which was really cool. And then mine was you can tell we're on Zoom, thumbs up, bubbles keeps coming up. So that, and then I had a like, what was it? Cappuccino, like a macchiato, liquor, whatever.
Yeah, it was basically like a coffee that they'd mixed into a cocktail, but it was really nice.
It
It was
was
like a cappuccino cocktail, I would say.
Yeah, it was so nice. And then the next speakeasy we went to was in Palermo, and this one was really cool. It was a recommendation from his friend. So we had sushi first.
Yeah, it's called Nikki Harrison.
Yes.
So the best um ceviche probably we've had in a long, long time. And the sushi was all right.
And he's like a ceviche connoisseur because like he goes fishing a lot. Like he won't even order it when we go out. He's like, no, 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 no. I'll just make it at home. Mine is better. And it usually is.
Yeah, I don't usually trust ceviche in the States because I don't like tilapia and I don't trust most restaurants like sources for fish. So that's just my own personal issues. But yeah, the ceviche was amazing. They had like wasabi mixed in with the citrus and some sort of crunch. I have no idea what they did, but it was awesome. It was really good, really well balanced. And then the sushi, they had like torched cheese on top of a roll, which was horrible. So anyway, the highlight was not the sushi, but it was the speakeasy in the back. So they take you through what looks like a vault, and then they put you in this time machine that looks kind of like something out of maybe Doctor Who. And then it's opened up to this like very traditional looking speakeasy, like you would have probably found in the 20s and 30s. Um,
They even have musicians.
yep, they had like a little, what,
Swing.
yeah, a little swing band, and they had the whole story behind it. They have like a printout of a newspaper from 1930 or 20 of the story of Nicky Harrison, who was running a speakeasy behind his dad's fishmonger shop. And that was their whole little theme. So it's like the fishmonger shop is sushi, I guess. And then behind it is the speakeasy that's run by Nicky Harrison, whose dad owns the fishmonger place, and then it's also backed by the mob. So they had his mugshot and everything. It was cool, and the drinks were fantastic. We got a seat at the bar, so we got to watch the guys do their work, which was cool. I love watching bartenders, like good bartenders work. It's fun. So yeah, we had great drinks.
Yeah, our drinks were awesome. But that was really cool. And to wrap this up, I would highly recommend Buenos Aires. I can't do it right. Aires. You say it.
Buenos Aires.
Buenos Aires. I feel like me and with Spanish, I gotta really take some lessons here. Don't recommend Duolingo, but I always joke around. Like I did Duolingo for a while before I went to Mexico, and the only thing I learned was "Yo soy una mujer," so I will always find the right bathroom every time. because it'll say mujer on the door. So at least that, or dama, which I learned. Um, yeah. So that's about it, folks. This is a life update. I haven't done one of these in a while, and I've never introduced Spencer on here, which will be a hilarious surprise when Bridget watches this because I did not tell her. She was like, hey, like, do you want to do the podcast episode for next week? I'm like, ooh, let me tell them about my trip. Also, surprise, Spencer's coming on. Spence, how do you feel about this being your very first podcast? This is your YouTube debut.
Yeah, I feel good about it. Lydia told me that people were interested to hear my perspective. So leave a comment if you think that she was lying to me or she was just gassing me up so she didn't have to do the podcast by herself. Also, a couple of takeaways that I had from Argentina was the Spanish was completely different. Um, I can usually get by okay in Spanish countries, like with the basics for ordering food and stuff, but so many of the words in Spanish, Argentinians just disregard. They're like, we use different words here, and that's cool for us. So, um, just be aware if you're like a very novice Spanish speaker like I am. It's very difficult to understand anything. And also, we forgot to mention that we got $35 massages in Recoleta from our Airbnb host. Not from the host, but she had a massage therapist come to the Airbnb. They had a whole spa there, and that was definitely a highlight of the trip that we skipped over during the podcast. So yeah.
Yeah, that was a highlight. She kept saying it in like all of the marketing and stuff. And she was like, let us know if you want the a massage. And I'm like, you know what? How much is the massage? And she was like 35 US dollars. I was like, we will take two happily. So that was awesome. Well, anyway, Spence, thanks for coming on Visibility Era, the podcast. You did a great job. He was all like, subscribe, comment. Yeah, you are. I mean, I feel like the boys just love you too.
Oh, I mean, sure. Yeah, I mean, YouTube is definitely my only TV watching that I do.
Literally, that's it. So if you guys want more of Spencer, let us know. We'll have him come on some more.
Thanks for
And
having me.
yeah, and thank you for listening to another episode of Visibility Era, the podcast.